meeting of the Five-Town Cable Advisory Committee to order. It is on my watch, 6:33. Do I have a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes?
I move we dispense with the reading of the minutes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we shall dispense with the reading of it. Spectrum report is first. John, you're up.
Yes, well, good evening, everybody. I'll be...
No, go to the microphone.
Oh, all right. I don't know, mic'd up here. Good evening, everybody. I'll be brief. I just want to reiterate what I said at the last meeting about subscriber complaints. Please continue to have customers call customer service. That's the best way to have issues customers are having resolved the quickest way. But certainly I can help out if needed on anything in particular. And as far as communication, rather than waiting between the quarterly meetings, always reach out to me if you have any issues that you want to raise so they can get resolved as quickly as possible. And I attached an article here about how Charter Spectrum, we're trying to do our fair share with the environment and reducing our carbon footprint. And there's an article here that was published in August about all our national data centers around the country and how we're stepping up to the plate to reduce our carbon footprint across the country. So that's my report for this evening.
Okay, the fact that you attached this doesn't mean that people who are viewing this in video know exactly what's in here. So if you would be so kind as to, if you submitted this as a report, you go ahead with it.
Oh, you want to read it?
Yeah, read it into the,
Okay, well, it's just an article that was published in Information Technology on August 25th, 2021, and the title of the publication is National Data Centers Help Reduce Our Carbon Footprint. And I'll read the first paragraph. Energy efficiency is an important part of our overall strategy, and our IT infrastructure teams are seeing their efforts pay off for the environment, our communities, and our climate-related goals. And it goes on to say, Charter recently committed to drive efficiency by achieving carbon neutrality in our operations by 2035. The recommended strategy for achieving this target is to adopt initiatives for energy efficiency and emissions reduction. Although the National Data Center's efforts to align with the environmental, social, and governance strategy we announced in April, the IT infrastructure operations energy efforts have been helping to lessen our carbon neutrality commitment and energy-related costs for many years. Then it goes on to explain exactly how we're doing that.
I have a question.
Sure.
Energy efficiency that you're going to have. How much of your savings are you going to pass on to your subscribers?
Well, we're a public company, so we're in business to make money, but I'm sure we'll do our fair share. The main goal of this is to improve the environment and climate with these crazy fires and storms that we're having, so.
But I think our position is, what are you going to, how does that benefit us here in our 5 towns?
Yeah, we're trying to help with the environment everywhere, not only here in 5 towns, but across the country.
Did you want to say something? Okay. I have a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
Look, I
Or
always want
actually,
to say
subscriber
something.
complaints. The number of subscriber complaints that I have personally received has increased. Most of them are due to rate increases, the number of rate increases that you've had in the last year, and aggregate for a year, the amount of the increase in total vis-a-vis the price a year before. And I just want you to know that these are the things that when they call customer service when they get an increase, they say, why do I have another increase? It's explained to them. But explaining to them does not mitigate the fact that your rate increases have become, on that lowest tier, have become oppressive.
Have become what, I'm sorry?
Oppressive,
Oppressive, yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
These people don't have anywhere else to go. We are in a monopoly situation, you are aware of that.
Well, people can go to over-the-top technologies, there's streaming technologies, there's a lot of different options for people today. We try to minimize our rate increases because of the competition
Yeah, but
we
these
face.
people don't, are mostly seniors,
Mhm.
and they don't understand streaming, they don't understand how to do it, they don't have the equipment to do it.
Right. And those that qualify, we do offer a low, if people qualify for a
Well, they
lower
don't,
rate.
your customer service people don't offer it.
Both they ask for it.
They have to ask for it, but you don't offer it. You know, if you're calling to say, why are you increasing my bill, why are you increasing my bill? Shouldn't they be saying something to the effect, well, we have a way of helping you out with that? And,
If a customer asks, they should tell them. If the customer says, how can I reduce my bill? How can you help me with that? I'm sure people will be able to help out with that.
excuse me.
And as I think I emailed you, since the last meeting about, we pass on a lot of the costs that we get for programming. I mean, we're the sort of the middleman in
Yeah.
programming, and we pass on those costs. We don't necessarily make any money. We don't get, everyone thinks that we get all the money, and we don't. The programming cost is a very significant amount of the business. And,
You used to make a practice of having your rate increases only once a year. But in the last year, you've done probably 4 or 5 rate increases that I'm aware of.
On cable?
Yeah,
I don't think we have cable.
yeah.
No, we wouldn't keep increasing the rate on cable.
On basic cable, absolutely. And this is the rate increases that I'm talking about. And I would like you to look into the fact that every other month, there's another increase. And, but that's for, if people have a bigger package, I don't think it's there. It's only for the basics. Would you kindly look into that?
Sure. The rate, how many rate increases we've had in cable in the past year?
In the first tier, is
In the
what we're
lower
talking
tier,
about.
yeah.
Or all.
Pardon me?
I said or all of them. I'm Patrick White, one of the.
Yes,
subcommittee.
hi, Patrick, nice to meet you.
Hi.
So that, now, the other subscriber complaints that people have called me with, and I tell them to call Service One, this happens. But, if you have a problem like the audio and video not in sync, and it's an intermittent thing, by the time you get to call, it has stopped, it's now synchronized. But we're having audio-video sync problems. We're having freezing and tiling and buffering, and I know it's buffering because a little thing comes up and says, please wait.
And where is that in particular?
Well, it's in Lennox, I can tell you that, but,
Your own home?
yes.
Okay.
I've had it, but a number of people have said to me, every time I look at the TV, it's tiled, or it blacks out, and they said, and I don't call it, and I say, well, call and let people know. And they say, by the time I get to the phone, it's back. But then tomorrow it does it again, and it just keeps happening.
There's a particular channels,
No, it moves.
and in your complex, right, where you live? Is what
Yeah,
you're referring
yeah.
to?
Well, obviously, that's where I'm watching television. But people have this, who don't live where I live, report the same thing. Okay, so, okay, that's that thing. responses to questions and issues raised at June meeting. I have on the agenda here. And basically, we've had we have one big one. It's called Form 500, also Form 100 and Form 200. You had sent to us a form which was in fact insulting because it was a single month and it was not calendar 2020, which is what the Form 500 is all about.
No, that
And-
was for the total year, what I sent you.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah,
It says right on it that it's for that month, and it's for the month of January 2021. Okay? And I sent it back to you, and I said, would you care to correct this? And you said no. That's simple.
No,
And that
I said.
that
this
is
the form we filed.
unresponsive.
I said, this is the form we filed with the DTC, and I thought you had the correct form that we filed with the DTC.
Well, the wrong one was sent to us. It was sent out, and it was sent out appropriately. It was received by the towns, and that is what the towns got.
Right.
It's the wrong report.
So you're saying what I sent to the town and to you is wrong?
Yes.
Well, I'll have to double check. assume
Well, I
was
said that
correct.
back to you, and you said no. Left it there. You didn't question anything, you didn't do, and that is not the way to handle that. That is a
No, I
breach,
said this-
that's a breach of our agreement.
It isn't a breach of anything.
It is a breach of our agreement. You're required to file those forms with each of the towns, and you haven't.
I filed the right form.
Pardon me?
I thought I sent you the right form.
When I
There
sent,
was an error, if not.
when I sent it back to you and said, this is not correct, I sent you back what
you
you
raised your
sent
voice
us.
for?
Because you're making me angry. That's why.
There's no need to raise your voice at me.
John, we've gone back and forth. I've been quiet about it long enough. We've been going back and forth on this for 6 months.
You raised this at the last meeting, Linda.
That's correct.
Okay.
I raised at the
Last
last
meeting was
meeting that
3
it
months
wasn't received, so you sent us the wrong one.
No, I
It
sent
was
to the
due,
towns.
it
I
was
didn't
due
send it to
in
you.
February.
I know when it was due.
When are we going to get the right reports? Right now, you're in breach.
I'll look into it tomorrow.
Okay.
First time I've heard it.
It's not the first time you heard of it, because I personally sent you the email.
I know you sent me the email, and I said, I thought this is the correct form. That's all I said back.
No, that's,
I
you,
have the email.
I do too.
All right, read the email. Read what I said then. Don't put words in my mouth.
You sent back a one-word answer, no.
Not right.
Okay. Here we go. Oh, that's not the one. That's a different one. Okay, let's get that. Fine.
You said,
Yeah.
June 23rd, upon review of the Form 500 just received to the towns of Great Barrington, Lee, Lennox, Sheffield, and Stockton, it would appear that the details included are in error. They are not the full detailed Form 500 for the calendar year 2020, which is the town. Please send the correct Form 500 as requested. I responded that same day, about an hour later, Linda, those are the full details of the 2020 Form 500 for each town that was all submitted to the DTC. Thanks. And that was it. Never heard back from you.
Yes, you did.
I didn't. That's the last email. Well, do you have another email?
This is a different issue. I obviously took the wrong one with me.
Oh, that's what I have.
Okay, well, that's, what's, this other issue the fact is, I sent you an email And by the way, I copied Melinda on that one. I said, do you want to change this and submit the proper ones? And I got an answer from you that was just a one-word, no.
I never said no. I just read you what I said.
Okay.
You
We're not
can
gonna, I'm not
show
gonna
me
argue,
otherwise,
I'm not gonna argue with this with you anymore. But we still don't have the proper Form 500s. We have never
I
received
said I'll
them.
look into it tomorrow. What else do you want me to do right now?
What else do I want you to do right now?
Yeah.
You'll respond to the next one. I sent you something that came through our town's system that goes through the town's website where people can file complaints. And this was from a woman who brought up the issue that I was bringing up before about rate increases and rising fees, and I forwarded to you, which is what that system is set up so that I do that. And you sent back to me an explanation of the increases. And I said, that's fine, but don't give it to me. You have a name and an email address of a person that you should have responded to. It's not my job to respond to that, it's your job to respond to that. And then you, when I made you aware of that, I wrote to you, I'm aware of Spectrum's position on rate increases. The 5-town advisory committee is not here to do your job. You need to answer the complainant. I'm not going to mention her name now. And I gave you the email address on behalf of Spectrum. So you said, okay. I don't know if you ever responded to her.
I believe I did. You said, please respond to this email, and I responded to your email as you instructed me. So
Yeah, but
you
didn't
did say that.
You didn't copy me, so how do I know?
No, I sent it to you, and then you asked me to send it to the constituent, which I did. So I misunderstood your email. I apologize.
Apology accepted. Let's not repeat it again, ever.
John, I have a question about
Sure.
complaints. How does your customer service team report a complaint? Do they have to specifically say, complaint, I have a complaint? Or is it any issue that your representatives tag as a complaint? If I called up and I said, hey, the bill's not coming to my house right away, would that be logged as a complaint? Or would the constituent have to say, I want to file a complaint?
The escalated complaint.
A complaint is escalated, so if it's not handled by the first level?
Well,
then
like
it
if
becomes
the
a complaint?
DTC passes something along, or the Attorney General's office, or something
Yeah.
like that, a higher office,
Yeah,
not just customer. I mean, we get millions of phone calls a day. We have
Yeah.
tens of millions of customers, so no, every time someone says complaint, we don't log that.
yeah. If someone has a problem with the TV reception, is it possible it could be logged as a broadband issue as opposed to a TV issue?
Broadband is internet,
Yeah.
not
That's
TV.
where I find that a little confusing, because I don't know if the cable, which I assume is probably delivered via broadband and not some other technology these days. And then if you're having trouble with things freezing up and pixelating instead, my guess is probably because of a broadband issue. But I don't know if you've got cable, how you measure your broadband speed. You know, if it's not, as opposed to your, it's confusing because everything's all in one tube there,
And
one pipe.
all of these are intermittencies which are almost impossible to track.
So the thing that's confusing, John, is, I have this in my report as well, but, for example, the town of Sheffield had just a single complaint in the calendar year 2020 that has 800 and something customers, and the only complaint was for billing. There were no complaints registered for customer service or reception. Is that plausible?
If that's the only complaint that came to us.
No,
from the
just
D-
one in a whole calendar year.
For the DTC, yeah, it's something that's kind of escalated, like from the Attorney General or the DTC or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a complaint can happen. Somebody can call and say, this isn't working correctly, and that never gets logged as a
That's what I'm
complaint.
thinking, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Because the numbers don't make any
Just because
sense
we
to
have
me.
millions and millions, I mean,
Yeah,
a zillion, complaints,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
so it's hard to keep track of.
I just wanted to address the question of buffering. I have two TVs in my home, and one of them is a relatively old digital TV, a Samsung, and one is a relatively new one I got for my spare bedroom. And I was having some of the problems that you were describing, like on HBO, it might not always come through right, or on Netflix, I was having this other problem. When I swapped the TVs, the problem went away in my living room. And the reason turned out to be that my older TV just didn't have enough memory for some of these digital services. And while I'm not giving them a pass, I do want to point out that sometimes troubleshooting this stuff is really complex, and I think it's helpful to not necessarily, assign blame before, it's hard to know with the individuals, set up in their home, what their configuration is, and I just wanted to kind of point out that, at least in my case, I was pretty mad. I talked to your guys on the phone for 2 hours, and then it turned out to be my own TVs. So,
That's the reason we want customers to call customer service, so we have a technician to go out.
Yeah.
That's trained to spot these issues, and they can test the signal level outside the home, inside the home. And that's why we need that, and that's why I impress upon that, because people can complain all they want, but unless the technician goes to that home and can troubleshoot, it could be the wire coming from the street to the house, it can be internal wiring,
or it could be your
it can be the things on the wall, the facet, whatever they're called, connections are loose. And that can cause a problem if they're not hand tightened enough or whatever. There's a multitude of reasons why. And old technology, including our equipment. Some people never change out our equipment. They have it in their homes for 10, 15, 20 years. And it gets old, and if it's not swapped out, then it can cause issues, so.
And people just have to go to Lee to swap it out?
Yes, yeah,
There's no charge for that?
no.
Okay.
I will say that I personally have had to swap out my cable boxes. I have 3 sets. I have had to replace all of them within the last 2 years. 2 of them twice. Which says that either there is some, and by the way, some of these are identical boxes that they're being swapped out for. So there's an equipment issue here with that particular supplier or that particular type of equipment vis-a-vis the system that it's connected to, or whatever the problem is. But in each case, I have called service, and service said, you need a new box. So I went to Lee, and I swapped out the boxes because I was not going to wait 2.5 days to get somebody to come by, when I could go over there in 5 minutes, or 10 minutes, I should say. And that's part of the problem here. Those things are not being reported as problems. Now, I don't like to have to use my own, the service in my own home as an example, but unfortunately, I have so many examples in this, the way the system is operating, that it's easy for me. I don't even have to look elsewhere. I only look in my own home, and I have had people in who have done some reconnecting and all that. So when they say it's the box, it's not my TVs, because my TVs are not old. They're HD sets, and one of them is brand new.
Well, HD's been out for a while now, so older HD sets, I don't know if that happens, you know, in case it goes in an old HD set or not, or.
I think it had to do with memory in the TV, but I have no idea, you know, it's like, this stuff is really hard to troubleshoot.
I agree.
I just know it worked when I swapped them.
So, I question the quality of the boxes that Spectrum is buying from a supplier and then giving to subscribers. When it's the same model, keeps going out like that. Just something to check into. Okay. Let's see. Communication. I think we have been communicating with you more than we have been in the past. I wish that the answers that we were getting back were more than one word, like yes or no or okay. And you fill in some gaps there.
I just read an email to them. This one, I didn't read the response to the woman at Northern complaint. It's at least 10 lines long. So.
Yes, but that's the response that you wrote that response that you should have sent to her.
But I forwarded it out to you. I told you what happened. You said, please respond to this email, so I responded to you. And then you said, please respond to her, and I did. So that's what happened.
Okay, let's move forward. I think we have covered the agenda for the Spectrum report. And John, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. There may be a couple of things that might be helpful with the CTSB report because of the interaction between CTSB and Spectrum. So I would appreciate it if you would stay through Rich's report in case there are questions that come up in there.
Okay.
Okay. Rich?
Good evening, Richard Frederick, Executive Director for Community Television for the Southern Berkshires. In my report tonight, I have three items. And the first item is about our staffing. While COVID numbers increase in our community, CTSB continues to provide our town governments and school districts with full support from our staff and CTSB-owned Zoom accounts. CTSB currently consists of 3 staff members, including myself, to cover the heavy load of Zoom meetings. In addition, our staff maintains new content and information daily on our 3 broadcast channels that operate 24 hours a day, along with their regular duties. Much like many local businesses, we've lost many of our paid videographers to better paying positions in the community, and the staff is now working overtime to keep up. Our 4th staff member, Nathan Haney, recently resigned. Nate did a wonderful job in the past 2 years upgrading almost all of our internal networks and broadcast servers, but decided to accept a new position at Mount Wachusett College, closer to where he lives. We've hired Erica Spiz to replace Nate. Erica is a longtime videographer and member of CTSB. Erica's most recent job was Director of Social Media at Jacob's Pillow Dance Festival, and Erica did hold the Operations Manager position here at CTSB 3 employees prior to Chris Graham and Nick Ring. Erica will begin her work on October 4th and will be tasked with much more than the Operations Manager position, which oversees the equipment that broadcasts our 3 channels. Erica will also provide videography, social media skills, and be available to cover evening and weekend meetings and events. The second item on my report is our advertising campaign. Since the loss of our channels on the lower tier, CTSB has struggled to make our community aware of what we do and how we can be seen. The CTSB board approved an annual budget of $15,000 to spend on advertising our new channel numbers in an effort to make up for the loss of our old channel numbers on the lower tier. We've created ad campaigns in the local shopper and also a top-line banner on the Berkshire Edge that costs us $500 per month. The campaign's message is, "It's your community, watch," and lists our new channel numbers. The ads on the Edge are clickable, and once clicked, will bring them to our website. We will monitor analytics on our website to determine whether these ads have an impact on online viewing. As viewership of how many people watch us, as we have no data from Spectrum as to how many people watch us on cable. After the Watch campaign, we will move to a Join campaign to increase our membership. And finally, our third campaign will be Learn. We will need to wait for the pandemic to end before we can expect people in our community to join or come in to learn. In addition to the ad campaign, CTSB has purchased lawn signs, baseball hats, and decals in an effort to make our community more aware of the invaluable services we provide. And the final part of my report is Spectrum payments, and this is in regard to payments sent to Spectrum and payments being received by Spectrum Charter. I was asked at a previous CAC meeting as to why CTSB was writing a monthly check to Spectrum for internet service. This bill is for enterprise TV, voice, internet, and data. We currently have one cable box, although we continue to be charged for 4 cable boxes. The monthly bill is $943 and is expected to increase over $1,000 as we have a need for faster upload and download speeds. Faster speeds are required as people watching content on our websites are actually streaming data out of our building. And finally, CTSB received a check believed to be part of our annual funding dated March 12th of 2021 in the amount of $439.58 from Charter, but the check was made out to the town of Sheffield. On April 26, 2021, I communicated via email the error and was asked for a resend of the check. I have attached a copy of my email request and did not receive a reply to it. I did receive a reply from John about an unclaimed check from 2018, which is before my time, that I have not seen. So maybe John could take a picture of the check and trace it back and see if it belongs to the town of Sheffield or CTSB. So that issue is currently unresolved. And I have a copy of our monthly bill to Spectrum if anyone's interested in seeing our monthly bill. And I also brought the check, so John can take a picture of it if that's appropriate. And that concludes my report for tonight.
Hey, how are you? Patrick White.
Hi, Patrick.
Nice to meet you. I just have a comment. You know, the question of stats, like basically in real time, who's watching this now, or after the fact, who's streaming these, I believe they're relying on your software. And for towns looking forward to post-COVID sort of, services to offer, it really would be fantastic to know how popular these kind of the sort of what the hit counts are on these videos of town meetings, because you're in a position to tell us, if it's 3 people watching a meeting, maybe it's not that important once we get out of COVID. But if 200 people are watching a meeting over the course of the month between meetings, then it might be, really, really important to the towns. And this dovetails into, I think, the Future of Ctsb discussion. But I know that, I think it's a JavaScript tool they use to load the videos between the various pages, so it's not as easy as a regular hit. But if there's any way you guys could give us, or give the public even, counts on the various videos that get streamed off of your platform, it would be really, really helpful.
So, do you think we can do that? You're above my league.
Well, I think what he's referring to is how many people are tuning into community TV on cable. So streaming would be different because streaming comes out of our servers and it really has nothing to, it's more, our website is separate from Spectrum.
Okay.
So that's a service we provide, so like social media and our website are services we provide that really have nothing to do with Spectrum. There are other ways for people to watch us. So I guess the issue is Spectrum has never,
So they didn't provide you with the software website platform tools, you guys developed that?
yes, that's our own website, but Spectrum has never been able to provide us with a number of how many people watch community TV. I can't tell you if one person's watching or 5,000. I've never seen a number, or numbers never been provided. So all we can do is look at Facebook analytics, or our website designer can go into the system and say, hey, 50 people clicked on this video, or the Berkshire Edge ad has increased people clicking on your website. So that's our only measure.
Yeah, well, I mean, just between you guys then, I just would let you know that obviously to us, it's really important to know where we're getting engagement for town meetings and boards. Sometimes people come in person, but these days they're few and far between. And between your various platforms, social, web, and broadcast, if you will, it would be great if you could provide the towns with insight into,
Do you have that capability? Does Spectrum have?
That's like a Nielsen rating thing, right?
Well,
Sort of, but-
do you have the capability of knowing who's watching what on the Spectrum? How many people are watching any particular channel?
Not that I'm aware of.
Would you
Oh,
mind
other than-
checking?
Of course you do, you sell ads, but yeah, okay.
What did you say?
Would
I
you
said,
mind?
oh,
oh,
sorry, no.
You him or you me? So, would you double check and see if you've got that capability? Because it seems to me like you should have it. I mean, do they know how many people are watching Channel 6?
Well, that's what I mean, Nielsen ratings, that's what, you'd know better than I would. What's a Nielsen? rating?
Yeah, I mean, so Nielsen is a third party, so someone like Channel 6 or Channel 13 in Albany would pay Nielsen a huge sum of money, and Nielsen would send out agents into the community and ask you to put a box on top of your TV that measures what you personally are viewing and your habits. So,
I don't think we monitor what our customers are watching.
I do believe that your cable boxes are capable of knowing who's watching what, when.
Well, we don't need to be.
And your system can capture that.
Like Big Brother,
Yeah, but we're not looking for that. We're looking
Big
for
Brother-
aggregate numbers.
But Big Brother is out there watching, and I think that, you can check to see if you can find out how many people are watching. Yeah.
Why don't we
But
draft
it's
a
I
letter?
find it highly doubtful because Nielsen wouldn't exist otherwise, but I can certainly ask.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
Why don't we
this is,
draft a letter to John, a little more succinctly
Sure.
worded, that asks that very question?
yeah.
I mean, it's a long-term thing, but it just would be helpful to get a sense
I
of.
understand, yeah. Yeah, we
Yeah.
useful information, yeah.
I mean, it's an expensive service to offer all of this, and if literally no one was watching, then that would call into question, is there other ways that we could either promote it or do it? But I think a lot of people are watching, because I hear the people use the website and and tune into the channels. It just would be nice to have data.
Yeah, and some towns do polling on that particular issue, and, they pay a
Yeah.
pollster or whatever to.
Well, you just opened the door to another discussion here.
Thank you, we're sorry. I'm not sure.
No, actually, I'm glad you did. And that is the fact that Spectrum is forcing CTSB to degrade its own HD signal to SD or less in order to put it on your channels. In other words,
It's not HD.
it's all recorded in HD. They only have HD equipment now. But the connections between the head end and CTSB, and frankly, all of I talked to Pittsfield, they have that same issue. Every other system in the Berkshires has that issue. Why are you making all the systems degrade their HD signals and make all the video that you put on now the channels 1301, 1302, and 1303 look like amateur video?
Because we don't have the HD equipment for it.
What do you,
Like you guys have, the HD capability.
They've got, they're giving you they can give you an HD signal, just like like the channels in your regular channel lineup.
Yeah, and the PEG channels are all standard definition.
Well, they shouldn't, this is, our contract requires you to broadcast those at the equivalent, the same equivalent as your broadcast channels.
Yeah, I'd have to look, I haven't looked at the contract on that.
Well, I'm telling you that that's what our agreement says.
I'll take a look at it.
Do you want me to read it?
Oh, yeah, please, Dennis.
So, John, it's in section 5
Can you-
dash 11. It's PEG access channel maintenance, and it says the licensee shall monitor the PEG channels for signal technical quality. Okay, I'm not sure if that's being done, as it does with other channels, and ensure that they're maintained at the standards commensurate with those that apply to the cable system's commercial channels. So that's word for word. Something to look into.
Yeah. I know that towns are now negotiating for HD channels where, didn't exist 10 years ago. So I know that towns are certainly starting to ask about HD channels.
Well, the
For
fact is,
pay.
the way this is worded, and it is a legal binding agreement. It says, whatever you have on your commercial channels, you have to put on CTSB, and our access channels as a definition. You have to do that equivalent to your commercial channels. And your commercial channels are all are mostly in HD. And the fact is that is the new standard.
Yeah.
And you're not living up to that agreement.
Well, that's just one section out of the license. I'll have to take a look at the whole license on that.
You have access to it very simply.
I do.
That's, what's the
First time
section
I've heard
number on that?
this issue.
Let's tell them.
5.11.
5, yeah. Okay. Okay, and I'd like an answer as to why these channels are not being delivered to the subscribers in HD. If that's what this agreement says it should be.
Take a look at it.
So some of the channels seem to have, like, there's two versions. There's like the standard and the high definition version. But our CTSV channels only have the standard, channel number. So, it might be just that, that they haven't provisioned a second set of high definition channels.
Well, they shouldn't have moved them.
I'm not just saying it's right or wrong. I'm
Off
just-
of the high definition channels, which is where they were originally.
Yeah, we take all of our high definition content and we process it to standard definition before it gets pumped out. So we can pump it out in full HD. but we
doesn't
have to
help.
Run it through Final Cut Pro and Premiere editing software and crunch it all down to a lesser picture size and quality. So when it goes out, it doesn't really look that great at all. But if you were to look at the raw video, it looks amazing. So,
And is that the pipe, size of the pipe is inadequate?
it's the bandwidth that we're being given by Spectrum, and this is also an issue with closed captioning. So we've tried to offer closed captioning to our community, and Pittsfield TV recently invested in the equipment, but we're unable to do it because the bandwidth doesn't allow for that extra
So,
information to pass through.
So do we know any companies that are in the bandwidth business? I mean, maybe we could just sort of make the priority, like, kind of increasing the size of the pipe to those guys, just so that, I mean, deaf people could watch the programming or, whatever. I mean, it doesn't seem unreasonable.
Yeah, well, the streaming stuff all goes out in HD, but we'd have to purchase equipment to put it out in HD on ours, right?
I believe, yeah. Right.
So you are, again, you're breaching the agreement by not putting it out at the equivalent of your commercial channels.
I'm surprised the agreement would require that, so I'll take a look at the license.
Well,
I know what he read, but there's more
Yes.
to the license than that.
Well, I know the intent in there because I was part of the people who wrote it. Thank you. I've been around that long and more.
I'm not sure we had HD when that license is.
No, that's why it says, it doesn't have to say HD. It says equivalent to commercial channels. Very simple.
Well, first time I've heard the issues, I told you I'd take a look at it, thank you.
These are 5 agreements that all read identically.
I'll order that.
Okay. Okay, do we have anything more for John or Rich?
Well, what's the future of CTSB is the sort of next one, isn't it?
Yes.
So that's both of them, isn't it?
Well, no, I think the future of CTSB is, the way we're looking at it here, is what CTSB is looking down the road to be doing, okay? So we don't necessarily need John. John, if you want to leave now, you're welcome to. Or you can stay here and
No,
listen.
my daughter's at Mount Holyoke, she's a freshman at Mount Holyoke, so I told her I'd call her when this was over, and we might meet for a cup of coffee or something, but I have a long drive ahead.
All
If
right.
you don't
Okay.
mind, I will scoot, and I'll be in touch. Nice to meet
Nice to meet you.
the
Yeah.
people I haven't met before. Good night.
Oh, John.
Good night.
Shout out the phone and you just maybe dig into it, see who it's on. Thank you.
Good night.
I think I gave back what he has dealt to me in spades this time. Okay. All right, next order of business is it's the new business portion, which is the future of CTSB. Rich, you're back up on stage.
So the future of CTSB, it kind of revolves around our contract negotiations and our contract expires in March of 2023. So part of that contract renewal comes multiple things. One of them is asking for capital funds to, me and the staff get together and we think about where do we want to be in 5 years and what kinds of things do we want to do. And some of those things are expanding the building, adding in maybe a kitchen for a cooking show, freeing up funds to add more staff members because we're only at 4 staff members currently. I believe that's the highest we've ever been. We need new computers. We have about 10 computers that are 2013 models that are outdated. So we're researching various ideas for our asking for the capital funding from Spectrum when our contract renews. So as the months go by, I'll be developing a 5-year, 10-year plan for spending and what we would spend the money on. Other future things, I would like to broadcast in high definition. Who wants to watch standard definition television when everything's in high definition? So we'd like to broadcast in HD. We'd like to offer closed captioning. There's, I think, lots of things moving forward. We're still developing ideas. So.
Is offering closed captioning, isn't that an ADA requirement anyway?
Legally, if we research it and find out that the cost is beyond our means, we can just say that it's beyond our means and we can't afford it. But the cost has come down now. So the cost currently is about $7,000 per channel for the equipment. And then you have to pay a company a few $100s a month. So basically the signal goes to them, they type out the closed captioning, and the signal comes back. So for about $21,000 plus monthly fees, we could offer closed captioning. And I was pitching that to our board recently. We should really do this. Whether we're serving 1 person or 10, it doesn't matter. It's important for those with impairments, so disabled people. So the reason we didn't move forward with it because we learned that Pittsfield TV had invested in the equipment only to find out that it didn't work. So they spent $21,000 and they have no closed captioning. And they're struggling with Spectrum right now to try and remedy the situation, and they've gotten nowhere. So we're holding off on that idea for right now, but that would be part of our future of CTSB. That would be one of the things that we would be looking for.
Okay, you had mentioned to us that you were looking at certain types of programming that you would love to expand into. Can you elucidate?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the cooking show would be something, you know, most PEG stations have a kitchen. When our building was built, I don't know why they chose to not install a kitchen, but cooking is one of the most popular shows on PEG access stations, and Pittsfield's very successful with it. Even Dalton TV has a long-running show of over 200 episodes now of a local cooking show. And I think South County is all about food and cooking and chefs, and so I think that would be of great interest to the community, and it would be a great way for the community to come in and take part in something that's not so, you know, heavily technically involved. They could literally just come in and cook something amazing and share it with the community. They wouldn't have to, you know, the staff could help them produce their programming. So that's one of many ideas. We're partnering with WBCR. You know, we're always expanding our shows. But at some point, we're going to need a larger workspace and more staff and more computers to make all that happen.
So we've got to make sure that we've got programming that captures the audience and makes them say, hey, did you see this on CTSB? So that next time you'll have additional people watching to get that word of mouth going, as well as publicity on the new kind of program.
Right, and we are growing. You know, our Facebook. When I started, we didn't have a Facebook page, and now we have 500 likes and dozens of followers, and we never had Zoom before. We now have 3 Zoom accounts, and we serve all 5 towns and school districts. And so we're, you know, sky's the limit. We're always growing. We never say that there's nothing that we can't do, but we need the support of, you know, the CAC and Spectrum.
And during all the lockdowns that we've had, you at CTSB were Zooming our meetings too. Yeah.
So, I have a quick question. So, and some of this you all may know because we're new. And first of all, thank you for welcoming us, and we're sorry that Stockbridge is a little late to the table here. And so, you know, you talked about, you know, sort of funds for your capital budget and then possibly some additional funds for your operating budget. So, example of capital might be install a kitchen or get a bigger pipe or update the computers. When you built your building and you originally invested in it, was that an initial grant of X amount of dollars, or was that effectively amortized and paid out as a loan over X number of years? You said you had a mortgage on your building, so I'm just kind of curious, like was the capital done via borrowing based on the contracted 5% of revenue, you know, and effectively guaranteeing, if you will, the payment? You know, I'm just sort of wondering with the building kind of falling off, you know, the mortgage on the building falling off, will you have, you know, availability to then, you know, effectively leverage whatever that payment was into new borrowing to accomplish some of these goals?
The mortgage is a loan from Lee Bank, and it will be paid off this year. The current balance is only $65,000.
What was the monthly payment?
$3,000, but because we invested in solar, we've made $5,000 a month payments on our mortgage, so that's why we've paid it down so quickly. It was our investment in the solar. I believe there was, before my time at the previous contract negotiations, I believe there was some capital funding in there that was for our building, but I believe most of that $800,000 was a loan with Lee Bank that we've had to make payments on.
As far as the capital that is in the old agreement, when we negotiated the last agreement, because CTSB equipment was so far outdated, we were able to negotiate a $200,000 grant for capital equipment. not for buildings,
All
but
right.
capital equipment, which allowed them to upgrade.
Yep.
And they have subsequently upgraded even more than that, because that was 10 years ago. So, and we also built, that's why we increased the amount to 5%, because we wanted to make sure there would be capital funding on an ongoing basis, because those monies are collected, and we will be able to, with the next agreement, have funding for capital. And we've already asked Rich to put together the list of capital and see what we can fit in there. Because the way Spectrum usually works it is, they don't want to give you cash for that. But if you give them the list, they will buy the equipment, because they can get it cheaper than we
Yeah.
certainly can, because they're a big guy who
I just think
buys.
it might be helpful to have an investment schedule. That's kind of the way the town does it now. We know over 10 years how many, trucks we're gonna need and how many police cars, and that way the equipment never is 2013 computers that you're trying to do broadcast out of. And it might be nice to kind of like figure out what that annual investment needs to be, to kind of always keep things kind of, reasonably up to date, and-
Yes, the CAC did ask me to provide further towards the contract negotiations, a 5-year and a 10-year plan, and that would spell out, okay, so if a building addition was $500,000, which I guess it could be more, year 2 would be, I guess, hiring a designer, and year 3 would be groundbreaking, and, how the funding would go over the years. So, yes, I will be providing a spending plan. And to answer your last question, Patrick, about now that we're relieved of our building monthly payments, what will we do with that money? I don't know, but I'd like it to go towards staff, because part of the capital funding, Linda, am I correct, that we can't ask for staff as part of that capital funding? It doesn't pay for positions. It's yeah, operational, right. So I would like to see us be able to maybe hire another person with this monthly savings, and I'll discuss that with our board moving forward.
So where we can manage in negotiations to pick up some of the weight of capital expense, they can then apply that to their operating expense of their own income, and help create some sort of a balance in there.
All I got, thanks.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? I want to say you do a wonderful job, Rich.
Thank you.
Thank you. So each meeting you surprise us with something new and good.
Yeah, we're here to support the community and our towns and schools in any way possible, and we're a phone call away if anyone needs anything.
I second that.
Are there any more Titanic shows coming up? Because,
Well, we love the Titanic show, and I think Denise just hasn't been in because of COVID, and I hear she's working on her latest episode, and I hope that we have it soon.
good. I was almost a star in that before she fired me. So I'm just saying, I still want to see the new episodes. So,
Yeah,
All right.
Yep,
That's all I
great,
got.
thank you.
thank you.
We done?
Dennis?
Sure.
You're up.
Sure, I'm going to provide a report on the subcommittee that will be negotiating the new contract. And this is really important. It's once in a 10-year opportunity to make things the way our committee wants them to be. Whether it be programming or channel assignments or whatever, the bandwidth of CTSB's download, all of that can be part of it. So we've been conducting a formal review and ascertainment of the 5-town needs and services received under the current Spectrum Charter license agreement that Rich correctly stated, expires February 28th, 2023. You might ask, what's ascertainment? It's not a commonly used word. It's the act of learning with certainty. And for our committee, it's a series of actions taken to, 1, review the cable operator's performance under the existing license, and then 2, identify the cable-related needs and interests of the community. Our goal is to complete the review process in the first half of 2022. Sounds like a long time away, but it's not. It's, 6 to 8 months away, and provide Spectrum with an RFP, and then work toward a mutually agreed to license agreement that best meets the needs of our Southern Berkshire residents. It should be noted that both under state and federal law, no cable operator may construct or operate a cable system in a community without first obtaining a license. But the same law also protects the cable operator's investment in a community from an unfair denial of a license renewal. So it's a mutually agreed to contract by both parties. All of the contracts in the state are non-exclusive, so we're not limiting any other competitor of Spectrum's from coming into the town, and that is by law as well. And just to set expectations, both state and federal law prohibit our committee from negotiating either cost or programming. So unfortunately, we can't lower the cost of the cable service or bring Western Mass TV programming back, the Red Sox or the Patriots games, But you might question, if cost and programming are off the table, what's left? And there's lots, just of what we've been talking about tonight. In terms of the subcommittee's progress since our last meeting, we've done completed a deep dive in the current 2013 contract and highlighted areas, in our opinion, that need improvement. And you can see the number of highlights that we've indicated. Some of the language is archaic. If you think about where technology was in 2013, yeah, way different than it is now. We've carefully reviewed Spectrum Charter's annual complaint form, and we talked a lot about that, at the beginning of the meeting. And the town has a subscriber base of 6,759 subscribers.
That's households, not people.
No, that's customers.
Yeah.
Customers of.
So that's households, because that's all, it's not the business, the commercial cable, it's the consumer cable.
And that is television, that's not the broadband.
Spectrum accounts.
Yeah.
The number
Oh,
of
okay.
Spectrum accounts, 6,759.
I thought that'd be more.
59. It's a lot.
What is, over the last 5 years, has that grown or?
It's gone down about 1% from 2019 to 2020.
Thank God we have an elderly, aging population here in the Berkshires, because otherwise, I think
Absolutely.
the kids are cutting the cord faster than us old folk are.
And that bucks the national trend of 3 to 5% cable cutters,
Yeah.
Well, that's, cable cutters generally refers to television, not to your internet service.
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm curious, so you're talking about, that number includes internet service as well as?
No. This
No, it's
specifically
It's
is
cable
TV accounts.
subscriber.
Oh, okay, that
Cable
was my
TV accounts.
question, okay.
But out of those 6,759, as we were talking with John, only 24 complaints across the 5 towns. And when I call up Spectrum and I say, hey, I got a problem, I can't, the receptionist buffering, or I'm not getting my bill, or it's late, you've said that I haven't paid my bill, but I have. Evidently from Spectrum, that's not a complaint. They define a complaint from what John said is if it escalates. So that's not exactly common sense, but maybe. One personal red flag for me was the 0 complaints for reception in the town of Lenox. Well, I live in Lenox, and both my neighbors and I complained about the poor reception last summer.
You say reception, you're talking about the signal service?
Yeah.
3 months.
Well, I complained, and thankfully they came right out. They were super. They fixed the problem, but I'm not certain why they never recorded my issue in my count. Yeah, it's possible that I asked that question, they were logged as internet related, but if so, Spectrum's report may mask the true number of customer TV complaints in our community. Well, it's kind of good.
Maybe what we should get from them is service calls.
Yeah.
Seriously, they don't.
Well, technically, that's what it should be, and maybe we should redefine it in the contract.
Yeah.
But that's, I think, rather than,
But that could be problematic, because this is a statewide requirement. So if we define it one way, we've got to work with the state to make sure they define it the same way and understand why we want to do that, and hopefully they'll do that.
We could have both complaints
The-
and service calls.
Yeah,
We could
well-
they could tell us how many service calls
The,
they have.
the DTC can tell them how they want that recorded, and it's up to us to then, to put together something that we can address to the DTC to help them. Because in discussions with DTC, they're open to suggestions about improving their oversight.
How many groups are there in Massachusetts that are similar to ours, where there's 5 towns in a group and they're basically negotiating with Spectrum?
There's 423 agreements.
123, and do all those contracts renew at the same time, or are they?
No.
No.
different.
So do we have access to recently negotiated contracts that other towns have done? Or
Yeah,
is anybody
sure,
asking for it?
Dennis looked
Yes,
them
and
all
I'm gonna
up.
be talking to them.
And these are just stupid questions, because I got a few here, but,
Yeah, yeah.
okay, so.
Let me finish my report, and then
Okay.
maybe you can ask questions. So that is a good segue, that we need to get more information. As part of the ascertainment, we need to define with certainty what's going on. So we've drafted a survey for our town residents that are going to take the pulse. And we hope to distribute it in the next few months. And this is the draft. This is not finalized. Yeah, but you can kind of take a peek at that. So we've been comparing, contrasting, and benchmarking other recently negotiated license agreements in Mass with not only Spectrum and Charter, but also Verizon and Comcast.
I think I have more.
Spectrum accounts in Massachusetts are a minority. Biggest vendor of cable TV is Comcast, and Verizon is a close second. We've been working with Rich on a comprehensive Southern Berkshire's TV needs assessment, as well as a long-term financial and operations plan. We've also been discussing complaints about the channel reassignment that we talked about earlier. And what were the channels at CTBS before 2018, do you know?
Yeah.
I was currently at executive director for Dalton Community
Yeah.
Television at the time, and I believe it was the same, so it would have been like 16, 17, and 18.
Yeah,
And we received no notice. We came in one day and our channels were moved.
the Spectrum's rationale at the time, from what I read from, research on the web, was to free up more digital bandwidth, which makes sense. But when we did our research across the state, other areas, the eastern portion of Massachusetts didn't change. They maintain those low channels. And you pointed out, Patrick, that our the demographics of our town in western Massachusetts is pretty old. And many of our town residents aren't particularly technology savvy, and they're unable to program remotes to search for CTBS, which is now located at channel 1301, 1302, and 1303. And one of my older neighbors told me he gets thumb cramps from pressing the up button so many times to watch the town meetings. And you can imagine what that's like. He uses the volume control and the channel control and the on or off button. But he literally presses that up button, to channel 1301 to find a town meeting. And that's crazy. So I think that maybe through the license renewal process, we might be able to at least negotiate for our change. And lastly, the committee has had numerous reports in the past about late or improperly addressed billing. And one way to mitigate the paper billing issues from Spectrum is something that I've personally done, is use their Spectrum.net online billing system. It's intuitive to set up, and afterwards just takes a few seconds to pay your bill each month with either a credit card or a checking account. You save a stamp, a trip to the post office, and you can pay it anywhere, anytime, even if you're traveling. Me personally found that very handy. And just to summarize, the ultimate goal of the subcommittee is to take a comprehensive review and in-depth analysis of our community's cable-related needs and ultimately negotiate the best cable TV license agreement possible for the Tive towns. And I'd like to personally thank Linda for leading us through this process. Her in-depth knowledge and experience has frankly been invaluable to the committee. The questions?
Yeah, Dennis, what was the name of that, the spectrum.net?
Spectrum.net, yeah.
I have a couple of questions. You said Verizon is also, do we have a contract with Verizon?
No.
No.
They don't offer TV out.
They don't offer TV
Oh, I didn't know. I'm
in
just asking.
Lennox
Okay.
at all.
And,
Or I don't know about the stoppage, I would think, not. I don't think there's anywhere in South County that they all offer.
No, only in the bigger
No.
cities they are.
Yeah.
But
I
the
think-
research has showed us that in the next 5 years, they expect to provide 5G home internet to the majority of residents in the United States.
good.
So that's a potential second opportunity for,
And is the 5% is that tacked on in addition to whatever could it be 6% or 4%?
No, it's controlled by FCC regulation. It's a
So-
maximum of 5%.
It's a maximum 5%?
Yeah.
Okay.
The towns have the opportunity of only having it at 3%. That's the lowest level. And we opted to move it up
Mhm.
to be able to support CTSB appropriately.
Right,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Chris, any questions? No? I think it's something important for the community. If you look at
Yeah.
the number of hours residents watch TV, it's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
It's probably the biggest thing that they do, you know,
Yeah.
arguably.
Very old, yes.
And I think that one in a 10-year opportunity to fix a lot of the issues we have and plan for the future, I think is important.
Okay. I think that's very important. So that's where we're at with the negotiations right now.
When is the next meeting on the negotiation subcommittee?
That's theoretically, it would be this Thursday, however, this Thursday is Rosh Hashanah. No, I'm sorry, Yom Kippur.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we're skipping this week, but we're scheduled for the following week.
Okay.
And right now, we're scheduled to do that in Lennox, in the only room that we can have our live meetings in, which is the auditorium.
Is that an evening meeting?
Pardon me?
Is that an evening meeting?
No, it's a daytime meeting.
daytime meeting.
It's at 1 o'clock,
Okay,
yeah.
good. We have select board meetings at night, that's what I was asking.
I know. I know the conflicts. But we do have one other piece of business, and with regards to the contract negotiations. I need a resolution or somebody to propose a resolution that we can then vote on, to ask that each of the towns right now commit at least $500 initially for legal consultation on the contract, because we do need some legal counsel on this. And it's when I say for now, I would say we won't need, if we need that much. It will take us till the middle of next year.
Is that
So-
something you can commit to, or do you need?
So,
we
do
have a
I?
budget.
No, this is a request that each town put that up.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, yeah, he's the money guy.
Yeah, no.
Okay. So do I have the motion?
So that's, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
$2,500
Yeah.
total.
Yeah.
How much the other service is that?
Yeah, so I was
Well-
actually wondering that myself.
If-
I was gonna suggest a higher number.
If we need more, we'll come back for more.
Okay.
But, it's,
Well, then
I will say that with the last contract, we spent under $1,000 altogether.
Wow, but that was 10 years ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say, times have changed.
Well, in
If
that
the
case,
complaints I heard tonight, maybe we need to spend a little more.
I make a motion that we request of each town that they commit $500
I'll say.
to help us, am I phrasing this correctly?
To
To-
help
to
defray
fully-
legal fees.
To help defray legal fees.
Okay,
And if we need more, we'll come back. Yeah.
yes.
Can I
Um,
second that too?
No, you can't second.
I
Do I have?
Second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
You can vote because you voted for Lee.
Okay. For another week and a half.
So the motion carries unanimously. Is there any other business? I have on here other business or citizens speak, but I don't see any other citizens here.
And I
so I
visit
think-
the starts at 8, so I'm gonna,
Okay, so well, I was just going to say, motion to adjourn.
second.
Well, I would, before you,
Oh.
I don't know if I want to make this part of the official meeting or not, but I am going to have to, I guess resign is a good word, from this committee. From this, I actually purchased a house in another state and will be moving there sometime. Still working on trying to sell my house and et cetera, so I will let the town know so that they can wrestle somebody else into
We
this.
have Zoom, you know, you could always zoom in.
Well,
Well, if I'm not a resident, I can't do that.
we thank you very much for being with us for as long as you have, and for contributing the way you have, and we will miss you, Jim.
I'll miss yelling at John,
It was fascinating.
complaining.
And actually, we also lost another representative from Great Barrington, and that's Mike Kernan, because he's moving out of the 5 towns. So, so we've lost a few, we're gonna have to gain a few, but we've gained Stockbridge this time. Okay, thank you very much, we're adjourned.
Mike.